Welcome to Workplace Psychology with Dr. Martha Grajdek. I'm Dr. Martha Grajdek. This podcast examines a wide variety of work-related issues through the lens of industrial and organizational psychology. And while many of the topics discussed here may be seen as intended for white-collar employees and their employers, in reality, the ideas presented here are applicable across organizations and industries. Additionally, many of the topics discussed here may be applicable outside of the workplace. I encourage you to examine what's presented here, apply what makes sense to you, and simply discard the rest. You've probably heard of job crafting, but do you really know what it is or what the benefits are? And did you realize that job crafting can be done without having to change jobs or get a promotion? One of the biggest attracting factors regarding job crafting is that it promotes and increases engagement, as people are able to tailor their tasks to their strengths and their values. Let's start by defining job crafting. Job crafting is about taking action, about taking proactive steps to change our jobs, or more specifically, to change what we do at work. To take that one step further, these changes are driven by our strengths, by our interests, and by things that mean something to us. These are changes that ideally should align with our values and bring more satisfaction to our workplace experience. The main idea of job crafting is that an employee can stay within the same job, within the same role, while getting more meaning out of what they do on a daily basis. Changing what we do and changing the meaning of what we do at work can have a tremendous impact on engagement and productivity. You may be wondering, what kind of changes might be involved when job crafting is implemented? The simplest things to consider would be changing tasks, changing relationships, and changing perception. I'll get back to those changes in just a moment. It's important to remember that job crafting focuses on strengths and talents, but also on one's interest and meaning. It's about being able to stretch one's abilities. It's about growth and forward movement. And it's about thinking and doing outside the box. Generally speaking, job crafting is initiated and implemented by the individual employee. But it's important to remember that not all jobs will be good candidates for job crafting, and not every employee has the autonomy to explore job crafting as an option. Having said all that, let's go back to the three most common areas that are addressed when job crafting is explored. As I already said, we can change tasks, relationships, and meaning. Changing tasks is relatively straightforward. This may involve introducing variations of how a task is achieved, finding new, better ways of achieving a task, more efficient ways of achieving a task, more meaningful or more enjoyable ways of completing tasks or projects. When we consider changing relationships as part of job crafting, this may be relationships with other people, both inside and outside of the company, but also the relationship between the employee and his or her job, or the specific tasks that he or she completes during the day. Changing relationships may mean expanding one's relationships within the company, getting to know people from other parts of the company or other departments. Maybe establishing and building relationships with vendors or customers on a different level in a way that brings more meaning, more understanding, and more joy to the workplace experience. Keep in mind that all of this is intended to be kept professional and appropriate, of course. When it comes to changing meaning, even the seemingly mundane or boring tasks can be transformed into a brand new experience. Whether that means focusing on your contribution by completing this otherwise simple or boring task, or how it affects others, whether that's the company, other employees, customers or clients, your community, the world in general, or maybe your own family. Simple tasks can easily be transformed when new meaning is assigned to them. And when tasks or responsibilities are aligned with an individual's values, those tasks can suddenly be much more valuable as a daily experience. Job crafting sounds like it's all about the employee, and to a large degree it is. If job crafting is something that you are able to explore, there are things that must be considered before you dive into job crafting as an option for you. The idea of job crafting is not to change your job completely so that you are no longer performing the duties and completing the tasks that you agreed to do when you were hired by your employer. It's not to make your life so easy that others suffer, whether that's other employees or the organization as a whole. So enhancing the experience of an individual employee must take place within certain parameters. Therefore, job crafting must align with team goals, with organizational goals. Since job crafting can often involve thinking outside the box and doing more or doing new and different things on top of your regular job, it's important that job crafting doesn't end up giving you a second job that you never intended to have. Similarly, it's important that your job crafting efforts do not leave your colleagues to pick up where you left off. In other words, other people should not be left to do your job because of your job crafting choices. So, although job crafting may seem like all fun and good time at first glance, it comes with a lot of responsibilities, and much needs to be taken into consideration before job crafting is put into place. While job crafting is a concept that is largely focused on an individual employee, employers must be proactive in their involvement and engagement with the idea of job crafting. This is something that employers can be exploring with individual employees, so that the employee has the opportunity to explore and experience job crafting while still working within the parameters that make it a benefit for the employer. Employers can engage in very simple activities. For example, quarterly job crafting conversations with their teams. This is an excellent opportunity to explore new options, new possibilities for job crafting, and to check in on the progress and success of any current job crafting experiments. The employer has a tremendous opportunity to focus on strengths and talents. Starting out small and having pilots or micro pilots for redesigning tasks is a great way to explore job crafting. Employees have to be proactive when it comes to job crafting and must not rely on the employer to bring up the idea. But remember, your responsibility as an employee is to work within those parameters that allow for your team and your organization to meet its goals. Just as the employer can suggest trying short-term job crafting opportunities to see how they work out, individual employees can do the same. You can perform a simple 2-week experiment where you come up with some ideas for job crafting your particular job, implement these ideas for a couple of weeks, and then assess how well they worked. The assessment should be a combination of your review along with the review of your employer. A 2-week project is a great way to explore job crafting, the feasibility of this idea with your particular job, and how well it can work within the organization. It's also important to remember that job crafting is not something that should be considered as a change to be written in stone, but rather something that can change, grow, and evolve with the passage of time. The changes can be driven by the individual employee's needs, interests, strengths, and talents, but also by the needs of the organization. As I mentioned earlier, while job crafting is mostly focused on the benefits to the individual employee, it must take into consideration other employees as well as the organization itself. So as employees and employers consider job crafting as an option within the organization, running monthly trials is a great way of finding what works and what doesn't. The short-term experiments can be tremendously valuable in the information that they yield. As this episode comes to an end, let's review what was discussed. Job crafting has been a popular concept for quite some time, but it can be misunderstood and a little bit confusing. Job crafting is all about changing one's experience at the workplace by changing tasks, relationships, or perceptions. It's important to remember that not all jobs are good candidates for job crafting, just as not all employees will have the autonomy to explore job crafting as an option. And while job crafting is largely focused on the individual employee, employers have a tremendous opportunity to participate so that the job crafting within the organization is beneficial for everyone involved. Remember, keeping within certain parameters is key for success. Job crafting should not benefit only one person and burden other employees or the organization, but rather allow for organizational goals and team goals to continue being a priority. Trial and error is an important part of the exploration of job crafting. Setting up short 2-week experiments is a great way to get started. And keep in mind that job crafting is not written in stone. It's something that's fluid and ever-changing to accommodate employee and employer alike. As this week unfolds, I encourage you to explore the idea of job crafting. This is something that many of you may already be doing without even realizing or intending it. Now is the time to get a little more formal with the idea of job crafting. Is job crafting something that's even feasible in your particular position or for your specific list of tasks at work? Even if you can't change tasks, or relationships, most people can change meaning, which can be a form of job crafting. Whether you are an employee or the employer, job crafting should be something that interests you. Everyone can potentially gain benefits from well-executed job crafting exercises. For those of you who experience this podcast in an audio-only version, I encourage you to check out my YouTube channel, Stress Free with Dr. G, where you can find the video version of the podcast. While you're there, check out some of the other videos. They focus on stress management. Stress Free with Dr. G is on YouTube, and the link for that is in the description below. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to this podcast. I look forward to seeing you here again next time. Until then, I wish you joy and well-being.